Welcome to the Memphis Music Bank's MMB Live. And today I have one of our music publishers, Kirk Smith. Welcome to the MMB Live.
Hey, thanks for having me on. Good to see you, Christy.
Good to see you too, and miss you in the midst of this quarantine.
I know. There's been so many awesome events we were going to go to and be together, and now they're happening virtually, which is cool, but still be awesome to see everybody.
Indeed, indeed. Of course, we're going to get a chance to talk about your relationship with the Memphis Music Bank, but I just would like to first of all get to know you a little better. Now, Kirk, are you from Memphis, or did you?
I've been here since '95. I came here starting high school, so that dates me. But so like I'm pretty much Southerner now. I was a Northerner for the first half of my life. And
okay, where were you born?
Massachusetts.
Whoa.
Right in the middle of Massachusetts. So about 45 minutes west of Boston.
Okay, it's from the original colonies. I was born in D.C.
Okay. So I have still not been to D.C.
Seriously? And I've never been to your home state, your birth state as well.
Yeah.
But here we are in the Tennessee. And we have a chance to, of course, do what we do in this creative space here. Now, so you've been here since high school, pretty much?
High school, yep. And went to college here and went to after college here and just met my wife and started having kids. And this is home. I love it.
I love it. I love that whole journey. Now, with that being said, so you've given us the biographical sketch. Now, let's get to this music life. First of all, I love your setup. I see your guitars on the wall. Is that what type of piano is that?
This is the piano I used to have in my house when I was a kid growing up, and it's a Courier. It's a little bit out of tune. It's got some weird sounds that it makes, but I use it a lot actually lately. And it's super fun, but yeah, it's kind of the piano I started learning how to play piano on. So,
well, let's talk about this. Tell me about your musical journey.
Man, my grandfather used to play the piano, and I can remember being in his room, and he would play this game where he would tell me to pick like 5 notes, and I would just look at the keyboard, and I would just try to be like as sneaky as I could, and I'd hit 5 random notes. And he would just take those notes and start playing, and he would turn it into a song.
Wow.
And it was just like the most amazing thing to me that he could just take these random notes, these random pieces of things, and turn them into music. And so that's probably one of my earliest memories, and just seeing him play and being into it. And then my cousin had a piano at their house, and we would always just kind of dink around on it. And yeah, I took piano lessons for a while when I was a kid and was super into it. I was like into the blues. And this is when I was living in Massachusetts, in Boston. And I was just like super into the blues. I didn't know I was going to end up in Memphis. And played through high school. And then I kind of got off music for a while and got into sports and all that kind of stuff. But I had been singing in the choir since I was a kid. And so I've always had music going on. And then right around end of high school, beginning of college, I just kind of caught the bug. I just was like, I want to do music. That's what I want to do. And so there was like a moment where I was like, I wasted so many years in high school, like being into sports and blah, 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 blah. And it was just like, do it. Just start now. Just start doing music, And so that's kind of how my passion got reignited for music, and I started getting into like recording myself, and I got like a beat machine, like an MPC. Old school MPC and like a little turntable, and like started making beats in my little side room attic thing, and had a little computer and was trying to figure out how to record myself. This is like I think this is like before Google, so it was like I couldn't even like Google or YouTube or figure out how to do stuff. It's like threads and forums and all this kind of stuff.
Ooh, take me back. Take me back.
Just to figure out how to do it. And and so got into recording myself and trying to make beats, and all the while still playing piano. And then I found out about a music college here in Memphis, Visible Music College.
Yes.
And I went there, and that's kind of where I started getting into production for real. And up until then, I was actually just kind of like doing the hip hop stuff and making beats at my house. But then once I went to the Visible Music College, there were like musicians everywhere, right? So there were people who like played the drums and people who played guitar and people who were singing, and just like kind of being in that atmosphere was like kind of brand new. And so I started recording bands
Wow.
and doing all that kind of stuff.
So Ken Storts, I know him very well. Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
he started. You were probably the first. Sound like one of the classes.
I think it was class number 3. I was
Wow.
like the 3rd, so it was still just a year program.
Yeah.
I started there.
So going from doing stuff yourself to being in this world and city.
Correct.
You know,
I had no idea. I mean, I really didn't. I really had no idea where I was, and kind of the epicenter of music. And I can remember taking a class in college. I think it was like music ethnology.
Where did you go to college?
I went to U of M. So I went to U of M, and then I found out about Visible, and so then I went to Visible. And I didn't even study music that much in U of M.
Which is the University of Memphis.
Correct. University of Memphis. That's right. And yeah, that's when I kind of realized that Memphis was like this treasure, this like vehicle for like inspiration for the whole world. Like I didn't know, I didn't understand it, you know? So that was super cool to kind of get into that. I actually did my thesis paper on like the whole history, rise and fall of Stax Records.
Ooh, you need to publish that.
Yeah, it's sitting there. I've let a few people read it and they like it, but it just talks about the relationships, like specifically the relationship of Estelle and David, and like how their relationship was so instrumental in like getting Stax off the ground. And so just like realizing just those relationships with people and different lives and different, you know, backgrounds coming together and like trusting each other and making music and like the things that happen from that. Yeah. So yeah.
You know, I have a beautiful connection to that research. When I was at some point in my 20s, I moved to Detroit. Okay. And while there, of course, I learned quickly how important the Motown era was and how it was still very strong, or the impact on the music scene there into the 80s. And so when I came back to Memphis in the early 90s, I went on my personal search to find all the music labels, you know, from High Records to Sun Studios to Stax and, you know, Royal Studios. And yet, you know, some of them were closed and you couldn't even find the marker where Stax was. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was crazy. It was high grass and some steps and, you know, some of the old buildings, just that whole Macklemore area. Yeah. And, so whenever I hear about people resurrecting the story of Stax, I was like, yes, tell that story. It needs a movie. It deserves a movie.
It really does. Like, yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, so here we are. You're now at the University of Memphis. What did you major on at the university?
I majored in religion and society.
Okay, so that helps me understand the connection that you had to Visible School, which is a very strong faith-based music.
Correct.
You know,
correct.
I attended Oral Roberts University, so I kind of.
Yeah. How are you? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How are you? Yep, so yeah. Yep. So no, and when I first came back, going back to my return back to Memphis, I was DC born, but was raised north of Memphis, like in the Tipton County, Millington area. So when I moved back from Detroit, I eventually, you know, migrated into the Shelby County city limits. So I've been learning, you know, over the years. Well, of course, I've been here, you know, long enough now to kind of pretty much know. But Kim was one of those people in that music circle, Christian circle that I was familiar with. And so when he started, you know, the school, that was a cool idea. And to know that you were class number 3.
Number 3.
And now immersed in this world, and it sounds like your recording chops were just as strong as your music chops. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I started recording people and mostly like helping other people do their music and working with bands and still doing hip hop stuff. And so I was kind of like all over the place. And then we kind of started a band that was like a hip hop rock band. And we did that for a few years. It was super fun.
What was the name of the group?
It was K Rio, was the name of the artist. And then like, we just kind of merged that into the name of the band. So we traveled a lot, and we did a bunch of shows and made a few records and had a lot of good times. But like, that was kind of like a moment of like, okay, I was in this hip hop world and I've been in this band world, and this whole thing started coming together, and it kind of reaffirmed my desire just to make music. And so that was several years. And then I came back into Visible to actually teach. So I taught there, and I still teach there part-time. But I started teaching there, and I kind of helped build up the production program with Ken. And just building the program, you learn so much because you have to figure out ways to explain production to people. And when you figure out ways to explain something, you internalize it so much more. So that was a huge part of just my growth. And
now, Kirk, I have to interject here. Now, you've said hip hop a couple of times, and not to be funny, you're from one of the original colonies.
I know. Yeah, it's really funny. It's like when I say it, sometimes people look at me like really? Like you're in there? It's like, yeah.
And to come south, we don't do easy hip hop either. So we're talking heavy hip hop. So tell me about it. You got to give me some trivia.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Yeah. So I was into probably like more grunge and some hardcore music. Like when I was a kid up north, I probably got into like some like rap core, whatever, like Limp Bizkit type stuff or whatever. And then I came down here and I was like, rap is dumb, blah, blah, blah. And then somehow, one way or another, I got into 666. I got into 3-6 Mafia.
3-6 Mafia.
And it's like, I was just into it. I had all the records. I knew all the words. Like I got into like juking, like all that kind of stuff.
Come on, Kirk, juking.
Yes.
Okay, for those who don't understand, break down juking. It's all part of the Memphis hip hop culture, just like New York had a hip hop culture.
Correct. Yeah. So it's like, I don't want to say it's like pop locking, but it's like influenced by pop locking, but it's got its own kind of bounce, and it's got its own set of moves. And it started kind of like in the early 80s.
Yeah.
G style and all that kind of stuff. And like, it kind of really popped off with Little Buck a couple of years back.
Yeah.
And, which again is another story of kind of the merging of two worlds and people doing something, and how that can take something into places you never knew existed.
How did you end up getting into the circle to do the music production?
So getting into production, like I just liked the music. And so I like, like I don't know, like a lot of kids, it's like, I just want to start making beats, right? So it's like, what do you need to make beats? It's like, well, you need an MPC. So I got an MPC and then just started like finding sounds and figuring out how to do the thing and sampling stuff off a record. And I got into that. And then I got into Reason, which was like the next kind of like software thing on the computer. And so I started using the computer. And then I got into Logic. And that's kind of, once I got into Logic, I just kind of, I stayed in the box, so to speak, in the computer. And I just fell in love with it. So yeah, and I was working with kids downtown in North Memphis, and we just started making beats and doing like kind of like gospel rap kind of stuff. And so this is like in North Memphis, Hurt Village.
Oh, wow. Before it was torn down. Yeah.
Yeah, this is before it was torn down. Yeah. And working with kids there, and like we didn't know what we were doing, but we were just having fun, and so I just kept doing it. I just kept making music. And probably fast forward 10, 15 years. Now I have my own kind of space. I'm going to say like 6 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, I like took the plunge, and I was like, I'm gonna do this. Like I had been doing it for years and years, but I was like, I'm gonna like try to like pay some bills with this, you know? And so I started my own little space in my little spare bedroom. I had a little $125 interface and this microphone, and just started recording people and mixing and getting into mastering. And then a couple of years later, I got a little bit more gear and just been doing it, you know? But
So what's your approach to all of this? You know, your musical approach. Everybody, the mad scientist, because you are phenomenal. I really enjoy your style, things that you do. So what's your approach?
Well, it depends on the project, but like if I'm working with an artist, you know, I like to split things into 3 phases where you have pre-production, production, and post-production. And then like in pre-production, we're just kind of just coming up with ideas. It's like they're sending me voice memos on their phone, or they're sending me demos that they're doing. If they have track ideas, they're sending me track ideas. If I have track ideas, I'm sending them track ideas. And it's like trying to find songs, trying to find sounds, trying to find vibes. And then I have a little bucket or a folder that we just have all that stuff in there.
Wow.
And then you're just kind of curating. You're just kind of getting all the stuff that you think is good. And then I might do a couple like practice sessions. Either if I'm with a band, I'm going to do it in their rehearsal space.
Right.
Or I'll go to a live show and I'll take notes and pay attention to what's going on. But if it's just me and an artist, then we're like in a room recording, and we're figuring out if a lyric works or doesn't work, or what's the rhythm of the lyric, or is this the right tempo? Is this the right key for their voice? Right. And so kind of like solidifying structure, solidifying key, solidifying tempo, and like just doing all that stuff without this pressure of like, this has to be the thing.
Yeah, like,
and sometimes it is.
Sometimes
it is. But it's like that pressure's not there. And then once you have the stuff solidified, then we go into like, okay, this is it. And we make the record, and I approach the rhythm section, and I approach the bass, and then the music, and then doing vocals is like one of my favorite things. And just like,
I'm a vocalist, so tell me about that.
It's just the moment. It's just magic. It's the moments. It's like when the vocalist is in the right headspace and they're relaxed and they're interpreting the song and they're in the moment, and you're just like, this is it. I'm listening to the record right now. That's just a beautiful thing. And the process of like, maybe they've done 5 or 6 takes, and I go through and I kind of take, I like this word. I like this phrase. Ooh, I like the way she sang that. I like the way he sang that. And you stitch together like this kind of perfect thing. It's called a comp, where you comp, you do a compilation of the best moments. And you sit back and you listen, and you've done all this work, and then you hear this like thing, and you're like, yes. It's so exciting to me to hear that final vocal. And the process of getting to that place, both emotionally for the artist, and just like, when you nail it, it just feels so good. So yeah.
When it comes to your most recent work, we had an opportunity, to check you out last year. The Memphis Music Bank was launched, which is powered by On Location Memphis, which has been for almost 20 years, a film festival and music festival, and has evolved into 2 different things. One being the Memphis Music Bank, which is a database, a reservoir of music publishers like yourself, amazing music that can be used for visual content, and also 2020, 2021, launching OLM Film Market. Now, last fall, we launched the Memphis Music Bank with a series called the MMB, or the Memphis Music Bank Mixer Competition. Let's talk about your experience, because you were just killing it.
Man, that was so much fun. I'm so glad that you guys did that. And I'm so thankful that you guys put that on and gave everybody just this experience, this opportunity, and what it did for the community, and what it did for people who are like, whoa, like I can do this, or this is something that's happening, or like I didn't even know this was a thing. It's like that was awesome. So just thank you guys for doing that.
Break it down for those who didn't have a chance to, as you know, a musician, to, if you could say, man, this is what the mixer competition is. Break it down for us.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you get these cues, right? And so a cue is a piece of movie, right? A piece of this visual thing. And you are charged with the task of putting music to that cue. And so you get these 3 cues, or sometimes there's a bonus cue, and everybody does their thing to that cue. And then you play the 3 scenes back to back, and there's judges, and they vote on which cue hit them the best, or they felt like fit the picture or enhance the scene. And so I love this. I've been writing music like this for a long time, and I've been dabbling in the film thing, and I've done a few things. And then when this came up, I was like, yes, I want to do this. And I can write songs. I'm a songwriter, but I really love when just music tells the story, when just the sounds and the melodies tell the story. And so this is just an opportunity to be like, okay, here's a story that I'm looking at visually, and then what is the world, what is the melodies, what is the sound that like fits into this thing. So yeah, so I love that. Yeah.
Now, I know last summer, prior to the mixer competitions being launched, you did participate on Location Memphis, and MMB, Memphis Music Bank, had done a film scoring class.
Yeah.
What did you take away from that experience?
Just that you have to, the scene is king. Like it's the scene, the movie is king, the dialogue is king. And it's not about me, it's about the scene. And so it's like, don't get in the way, don't draw attention to yourself, but also like do like if you do the music the right way, it should kind of just be one thing, to where you're just being hit by emotion as opposed to being hit by like, oh, that music thing is happening, you know? And so it's like, you have to be very considerate of the scene and not just be like, oh, I think I could do this thing. And a lot of times just less is more, and just simplifying things down to what actually needs to happen. Yeah.
You actually became a success story from our first series of the Memphis Music Bank MMB mixer competition. I think we started September, October, November was the series. And by October 1st, as you know, like, is this a thing? Like, what are they doing? Bridging, my role as the creative liaison for the Memphis Music Bank is to find a way to organically bring filmmakers and musicians, music producers in the same space, you know, to organically make those relationships happen. So when we were doing the competition, the mixer competition, I do know that people were showing up like, what are they doing? You know, because Memphis is not easily impressed by many things. You know, like we've seen that, done that. But to be able to be in a space where, as you say, musicians were pairing their music to a project or a scene,
yeah,
really triggered and inspired some filmmakers to like, hey, let's do business. So if you want to, you can share your personal success story of what happened from an organic relationship happening.
Sure. Yeah, no, that was amazing. It was just the whole way everything happened. Anwar came to one of the last ones, right? Or the second to last one. And was like, this is amazing. Like I think he randomly found a flyer somewhere and showed up and talked to Angela, and Angela reached out to me, and I was like, yeah, that sounds great. And so then me and Anwar chopped it up a little bit, and he told me kind of the story of his experience leading up to why he was even making the film. And I was like, this is so cool. Let's figure it out. And I did a couple, like, I guess you'd call it like a pitch or a mock-up, where he sent me a couple of scenes and I kind of did my thing. And I was like, is that cool? Like, you like it? You know? And he's like, yeah, it's great. Let's do it. And so, but he was also on a deadline. So, which I know this is part of how it goes. It's like, yeah, let's do it. And then it's like today, like tomorrow, like, you know, like, we got to get this done. And so it was kind of like a marathon. It was just like cues and scenes and more stuff. And I'm digging and I'm writing music. I was probably doing like 5 cues a day, which was like, you know, I would just wake up in the morning and just go until late at night. And so we're going back and forth, and it's like, yeah, this is cool. What about this? You know? And it's funny because the pitch kind of cue that started the whole thing was one of the last scenes in the film. But that scene, I did some kind of thing, and this little piano thing became her theme. And so if you go back and watch the film, you'll hear this little line every time she's around or doing something. And I was like, I made a theme for a character in the movie. And so it was just like one of those things and it actually helps. See, like, I know themes are good, but it's like, it helps you tie in your ideas together, to where it becomes this kind of story. Yeah. So that whole process was like, it happened super fast, but it was kind of like magical. And it was just a really fun process.
One of the things I can applaud you on is that, as you said, you are definitely very committed to your own style, but you also help a lot of other people, which I've always wanted to let you know in this moment. I applaud you for that. Because even some of the other musicians who were not as familiar with the process of the mixer competition, even though you were competing with them from the bank, you were still helping them to compete against you, which I thought was a beautiful thing. Now, of course, 2020, we had big plans. COVID-19 pandemic has hit. Quarantine season is under effect, probably into May and June. So 2020 plans that you had and are still trying to make happen, what are they now?
Well, it's actually, I was talking about this last night, with my wife, and just like, what do we want to do? What does it need to look like? And I work from home a lot, and I have 3 kids who don't go to school yet because they're too little. So like, we live kind of in the state of quarantine, perpetually. But a couple of things that I've been doing that I'm excited about. One is I've launched an online music training for music production. So it's thank you. It was a whole lot of work, but super great. I actually did my first launch a couple of weeks ago, and it's been great. But it's gomakemusic.org. www.gomakemusic.org, and you can learn how to use Logic, you can learn how to mix, learn how to master, and all that kind of stuff. And so that's been one thing that, like, I had a lot of months leading up to that, and then the launch happened, but the content's there, and so then I'll kind of do more phases of marketing and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of one major thing that's happened. Couple other things is that I have a music project called We Dream of Eden, which is like, it's all ambient soundscape. So a lot of my first record ended up coming into the music bank. A lot of those atmospheric things that you see on that, that's a lot of that. We Dream of Eden is the name of the project. And so I'm currently finishing up an EP for that project that will release probably in the next 2 months or so. And there's a couple of ambient music labels. One guy lives in Hong Kong. We met through the internet. Another guy's in Australia. They've teamed up. We're doing collaborations together. It's like this whole kind of ambient cinematic soundscape world. And we're all just kind of making music together and putting it out. And so I want to do more of that. And then there's a couple of projects with some friends of mine that we want to try to get started and put out music and do the streaming thing. Kind of like, we can't really tour. Most of us have kids, but there's ways to just share your music with relevant people who are into it and do the kind of the streaming thing. So there's a handful of projects that I'm doing there. I may or may not start like singing songs and putting them out, but I haven't really decided that yet.
So if not 2020, that might be found in 2021. I love
Correct.
it.
Correct.
It is funny that many of us who had big 2020 plans is like, we're doing like, to me, what Marvel does. It's like, okay, 5 years from now, we're going to release these many movies.
Yeah.
It's like, beyond your ambient music, because you are in the Memphis Music Bank, which they can check out at memphismusicbank.com, and also go to onlocationmemphis.org to link out to it. What are some of the other musical styles that you have in the bank?
In the bank, there's a hip hop track in the bank that I did with a buddy of mine, super talented artist. His name's Rufus, Gospel of Rufus. He is based out of Houston, was living in Memphis for a long time. He's back in Houston, and we kind of collaborated on a whole album, and that was one of the singles that made it into the bank. Yeah, that was a super fun track. It actually features Kirk Whalum on the saxophone. He did some Barry sax on that track, and I was like, what? I got to do a track with Kirk. That's so cool.
Wow. So that's a good song to put into somebody's commercial, podcast, film, TV show. So you need to check out Kirk Smith or Go Make Music.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how you're listed in the Memphis Music Bank. So ambient music, if cinematically speaking, I mean, really it's great for the scoring pieces. And then of course you have great stuff that can also be used for music placement. Anything else you wanted to share before we wrap up, Kirk?
Well, just thank you guys for what you guys are doing. It's such an amazing resource. I think if there's any musicians listening right now and you are making content or you have back catalog content that's kind of sitting around and you would like to give it a chance to have some new life, I would definitely consider reaching out to the folks at the bank and just seeing if it's a good fit. It's an incredible resource, and you guys are working to build more relationships with filmmakers and just getting that going. So I would say that.
Thank you. Thank you. Kirk Smith, Go Make Music.
Awesome.
.org. Also, you all can find him in the Memphis Music Bank. Go to onlocationmemphis.org or go to the Memphis Music Bank. Thank you all for checking us out here at the MMB Live. I am Christie Taylor, the creative liaison of the Memphis Music Bank. You know, so I don't know if I started off saying who I was, but I am Christie Taylor.
Yeah, you are.
And I totally have been love this. And I don't know if you can hit those piano keys right quick. Can you just give us something real, like 10 seconds of your heirloom, the heirloom key?
This is one of my favorite pianos, and it's free. It's from Spitfire Audio. It's a lab.
Okay. So you're receiving that keys right now. Oh, I love it.
I just love the sound of it.
I love it.
That's right.
I love it.